Yeah, I'm really stoked to have a chat to John today out of many bands, but uh, Deathfiend is definitely what we want to chat about today, as well as other things as well. Um, Congratulations on the newish album. It's really fantastic.
I'm glad you like it. Yeah, it's quite short, but it's kind of like a little mini journey. The album it kind of starts with this kind of like echoey kind of thing, and then takes you off on a little bit of a journey. But yeah, I'm glad you like it. We'll talk about it.
Yeah, no. It's great, and I love even. I mean, I think the first album, which I think is that's about 2 years ago, off my memory.
Yeah,
Yeah, that definitely had heaps of different influences on it, but I think even this flushes out even more. It's
yeah.
got yeah a lot of variety on it, and yeah, I have to say some amazing guitar work and vocal performances on this one is really huge, pretty surprising actually.
Yeah, I mean we start well, we'll talk about the start of the band if you want to,
Yeah,
but
yeah,
the
absolutely.
yeah, the idea behind Death Fiend is just to go back to the things we love, really. Go back to things that inspired us when we were young. So it's got elements of kind of death metal in there, of kind of crusty, nasty punk kind of sounding stuff. It's got black metal influences in there, and it also has got some kind of atmospheric psychedelic influences. So it's just got all these little things that mean a lot to us, you know.
Yeah, I did love that element in. I mean, definitely the black metal is, really to the forefront, but I also the kind of the synth and key work and the atmospheric stuff I could hear as well. It was almost like a little bit of a, you know, kind of not more recently, but what Killing Joke have done as well, really chomping down on the keyboards, but making it kind of, yeah, moody and stuff. I loved that. Yeah, that was really good. Like, what was I thinking in particular? There was one that was, oh, Forget Mankind. Forget Mankind. Yeah, that was a,
Yeah, that kind of concludes the album, but it also it's like the start of the album. It's like a kind of a circular kind of motion, really. But yeah, the album kind of begins epically. We've got like a fast track after that called Outliers, which is just a bit of a kind of
yeah.
death metal ripper. Earth Defiled after that, which is definitely us kind of looking at the planet and what we're doing to the planet and going, looking at the kind of, I suppose, the impact that we have. Dark Rising after that, which is a groovy, big kind of title track of the album, and contains, I suppose, a bit of the main theme of the whole album. We've got a fast track after that. We worked with Barney as well on a track from
Yeah.
Napalm Death, Relive the Torment, and we've got some other couple of other bits and pieces on there. There's some synthy keyboard bits as well towards the end of the album with some samples on as well. But yeah, we had fun making it and we kind of made it ourselves. The first album was just a selection of kind of the first tunes we'd written as a band. And that came out really well. We were happy with it. It had that crusty. There's a lot of Celtic frost in our sound, a lot of Celtic
Yeah,
frost
yeah.
in the scent. And, that simple Tom G. Warrior style guitar and is what made me want to pick up the guitar in the first place. And all those chuggy riffs that he did. So we like to make raw music that's, a little bit underground, a little bit DIY. But yeah, this new album we're really happy with.
Yeah, it's good. Yeah, it's. I mean, I think it's great. I think the production on it's really good. It's not kind of what I loved about it. Similar to the first album as well. It's really raw and it's not overdone. I mean, that's certainly something that I. There's no other word for it. I detest from a lot of modern music, like the overproduction, and that is just it's 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 not energetic and it's just like it's kind of washed out. But this was very, like you said, from the first track onwards to the very end, the production is energetic. It doesn't lose any kind of momentum. So it's yeah, it's very refreshing.
That was one of the reasons we formed the band as well, is I think I'm definitely into new music. I wouldn't say I don't like new music, but a little bit like yourself. Everything I was hearing from death metal, and to an extent, modern black metal as well, is just these really clean productions, lots and lots of triggered drums and sort of mathematical style playing. Everyone these days seems to play like a kind of mathematician. And I thought to myself, these aren't the bands that really moved me when I was growing up, and I like really simple, I like demo bands. I like listening back to the old demos of bands when they just started, when they really want it, and the production's a bit crappy and a bit all over the place. So there was a point where I was going through all these old death metal demos and metal demos and watching them on YouTube. That inspired me. But then also the bands I grew up listening to, whether it's Bathory or whether it's Beherit or whether it was Unleashed,
Yeah.
mixed with dischargey stuff as well, your wolf packs and your discharge and your antisect and amoebics as well. So all these influences of really early 80s, 90s metal, where it was scruffy and a little bit raw. That was the kind of basis of doing Deathfiend. And then, as I said, we've got a little room which we record in, and we managed to record the drums ourselves and, you know, guitars and things. And kind of, I went in the room and started shouting, and we just recorded it all onto computer. And then I did a bit of pre-production, and then we worked with this guy Carlo at Toxic Basement Studios in Italy, and he just kind of puts a sheen on it, bumps it all up, and it sounds fat. It sounds fat, but without being overproduced, as you said.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm happy. I'm happy.
Yeah, no, it's really, yeah, it really jumps out of the speakers, and that's what I want. And yeah, I definitely agree. Some of those early, recordings, they still hold a lot of weight. Like even probably some of your peers of your era, even like the old Hell Bastard demos and those kind of things are really, even early Godflesh demos and stuff. It's really meaty, and like that's what I love about it. Like it's, you know, and like you said, it can be finished off with a mastering, but yeah, not to the overkill kind of levels because sometimes it kind of kills the mood, doesn't it? Really, like you want to create that energetic kind of performance.
Everything seems to have gone in the direction that technicality is better. That seems to be like the thing. I don't know who started it, where it came from, but definitely bands like Meshuggah and that kind of seven-string guitar thing started to bring in that, and all the YouTube guitarists as well, who just seem to everything's about showing off. But
Yeah,
but 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 to me, it was about the opposite of that. It was about being able to just pick up an instrument, stick it through some dirty distortion, maybe just play some simple power chords, but it sounds good. It sounds heavy, and being influenced by black metal, crust, doom metal, death metal, those all those genres I've got albums by in my collection. I was
yeah,
a big
yeah.
fan of Paradise Lost and Candlemass as much as I was, the faster stuff. So yeah, I've got some really good influences and a great set of albums from the 80s, 90s. But I definitely lost it a little bit around the 2000s, 2010s. And maybe that's an age thing, I don't know, but I'm happy making this kind of old school vibe music.
No, you can't. Yeah, I think it's kind of a lost art, and there's definitely definitely that appeal to it. I think, like you said, I think, you know, Meshuggah might be very good musicians, but it gets me and my, I'm in a band, and me and my bandmates were talking about it a couple of weeks ago, and we just like, there's a couple of songs, but just like exactly what you're talking about. It's all very showy and just like, you know, I want I want the tunes, you know what I mean? Like, yeah, it's not.
Metal's always been about technicality and about showing off since its inception, and some people out there used to really hate it when bands couldn't play. For Venom, for instance, they were hated by a lot of the metal fans because people said, well, they can't play their instruments. It's just a noise. Whereas you listen back to Venom now and it's just got, it's got technical bits in there. It's interesting. It's just raw sounding. So yeah, I mean, I don't listen to too many people in that respect. It's good to make music for yourself and it's good to get that feeling of what you want to try and create as well, you know.
Absolutely. Now I've obviously got to dip back into the past because I am a fan of your previous work. My own little story was the two first CDs I ever bought was Napalm Death Scum and Doom Total Doom. So and now as a
Yeah. Yeah, it was a great time for us. We were very lucky. I was only about 14, 15 when I started tinkering around with Doom. We used to go to a place called the Mermaid, which was a kind of an old pub in Birmingham Centre. And the guy who put the gigs on there used to put on Napalm Death every week, and he put them on all the time. So we used to go over on the bus, watch Napalm Death, and then it just so happened that this place attracted all the bands that I grew up listening to. So Carcass would turn up there, Bolt Thrower would turn up there, Amoebics would play there all the time, and this scene created of all these bands who were not only punk, anarcho punk, but also death metal was starting to come through, thrash as well, and all these bands met up at this Mermaid bar, and the rest's history. Nearly every band that I grew up around got signed or went on to bigger things. Whether it was Bolt Thrower, Carcass, Napalm Death, and they're still good friends now. I still chat to Barney, Shane. I still see Bill Steer out and about. So yeah, it was a really, really good time. And obviously, Scum was a massive album for me as well. But the birth of kind of grindy, Celtic, frosty, blast beat stuff. Bolt Thrower were amazing as well. There's a band called Sacrilege from Birmingham who
oh
were
yeah,
amazing. I
yeah,
don't know whether you've
amazing
heard
band,
them.
yeah.
Yeah. I'm hoping to get Tam from Sacrilege on the next album, actually doing
Wow.
some vocals because I do see her and she's a Deathfiend fan. She does come
Excellent.
to the gigs occasionally. But yeah, that was an important time in my life. We signed to Peaceville Records, of course, and released some Doom releases. And I left Doom, I think, around 93 when the rest of the band relocated to Bradford and I stayed in Birmingham because I wanted to do more music here and my family's here and stuff like that. But Doom have carried on and fair play to them. They've done some great stuff. And, but yeah, I loved growing up around that time and especially around all those bands. It was very special.
I mean, yeah, the interconnection of all those bands, and I did hear a little bit of I think there's I don't know if it's on Spotify or what it is. It was on about the history of the Mermaid, and it was just phenomenal. And I have interviewed Shane as well, and he was, he's amazing guy. Like all those people you talk about, they're all, you know, I've interviewed them all, can't talk enough about, down to earth, it's a really, really amazing. But yeah, the stories in that it's a pretty short period of time, isn't it? Those bands like in the Mermaid and like, all those links from, Godflesh, Napalm and all the different kind of tentacles that kind of from that time period. It's pretty amazing.
Yeah, it's definitely started off in kind of punk for me. It was more punk and hardcore I got into first, and went to see Crass and various kind of bands, Conflict. I used to go and see a lot. But yeah, thrash metal started to come through, and you'd got bands like Metallica and Slayer, but you couldn't ignore it, and bands like Metallica were also wearing GBH t-shirts and Discharge t-shirts. So it was the crossover. It was a crossover between metal and punk, and some of the punks didn't like that crossover, and then other ones really embraced it and wanted to get heavier. So, and out of that kind of came, yeah, crossover music, metallic hardcore, and then you also started to get death metal started coming through as well. But yeah, you couldn't look back. a more interesting time for extreme metal because all these things were just happening 80s, early 90s for the first time. Now we take these things for granted. You can hear a blast beat anytime you want to. You can hear extreme metal, screams, whatever it is. But this was the first time people were taking it in those kind of extreme directions. And it will always be the original time for that. It's where it came from, you know.
Yeah, I think it's yeah. I mean, I think it's just amazing, and I think it's in the age of pre-internet. When you talk about you would buy an album, and I remember buying albums, and then before you'd get home to play the thing, you'd be looking at he's wearing this shirt. What's this band? And and the thanks list of what's this band or whatever, and I would be like, oh, the next time I go to the city, I've got to ask about this band or this band. Like it's it's very different. It's you can be
Yeah, I've
nostalgic,
been
but I think it was amazing. Like
yeah, I've been thinking about that quite a lot recently. I think it's a kind of mystery that's missing now, and it happened with black metal as well. Black metal wouldn't have happened if we'd all got the internet connections we've got now. There has to be this element where you kind of they're a mystery to you. Crass were a mystery to me when I was growing up. I hadn't got any access to them. I didn't see what they were tweeting or what they were eating that day. And when I was growing up, Discharge, I didn't know anything about them. I just knew the music. Or Rudimentary Peni, another band that was just like so influential. And black metal, when that came along, we knew some of the stuff that hit the headlines with the church burning and the murders and things like that, but we didn't know too much about the bands, what they believed. And I think it just adds to the mystique and adds to your interest. Whereas now there's just this kind of stuff everywhere, and you don't really know where to start. Sometimes less is better, having less channels can be better because you appreciate it more. Whereas now, I'm definitely up for the fact that we can all release things and the DIY aspects of the internet and do Bandcamp and things like that really puts a lot of power back into the hands of the musician. But at the same time, there's definitely something about the post-internet age that feels like, you know, you, everything's there, but do you want to listen to it? Do you want to watch it? It's
it's
that kind of thing.
yeah, it's a big there's too much to pick from, and amongst that, you know, there is certainly, like you said, a comment you said earlier, there's definitely amazing bands that are still coming out, and like that's what I love about Bandcamp. You can discover someone who's made they're still making music on a shitty 4 track or whatever, and you can hear the influence and the energy and what they're trying to do, and it gives you inspiration, and they might be 16 or something, and you could be in your late 40s or 50s, but the sea of stuff, where do they start? Because it's like a Spotify playlist is not really gonna it's
Yeah, it was definitely felt a bit easier growing up with less content out there. Not knocking people who make stuff, because
yeah,
it's great that everyone is, but I suppose with technology as well, it's got easier to record things. But there's been a hardcore revival recently within the youth culture. Definitely lots of younger people forming hardcore bands and getting into the old hardcore sound, bands like Negative Approach and stuff like that. I went to see, Gel and Scowl and some other bands
yeah,
recently, and it
yeah.
was nice. It was nice to see that energy back and kids just stage diving again and playing some real raw hardcore. So, not everything's bad, not everything's technical these days, and not everything is a turn off, But yeah, the choice can turn you off. Someone, I think it was a band called Dillinger Escape Plan, wrote a song called Option Paralysis, and they were saying, we deal with a few options, but you give us too many, and we just shut off from it.
It's it's
Interesting
it
concept.
and it's an information overload, I think, because it's super well documented now that like the attention span, although probably when we were 16 or younger, we didn't, or in our early 20s, our attention span probably wasn't great, but now it's even narrower. Like it's, I've got a young son, and it's so small. It's like they're watching a shorts from YouTube or TikTok, and you're just going, it's it's like, 15, 20 seconds, and this, and then this, and this, like it's
Yeah, yeah. I mean,
so
that's another reason with Deathfiend why we keep the albums quite short, is because not only do we want to go for that kind of morbid tales, Celtic Frost vibe, where it was almost like a long EP, it was straight to the point, did the job, but it wasn't over long. But when CD came out and I was making music, we started making, 60-minute albums, 70-minute albums. And again, I'm not knocking people who make a lot of music, but these days I feel like I just want to make something that's a little bit punchier, a bit more immediate. As I said, just like you put it on, it's like 30, 40 minutes of all these different kind of textures, but they work together. And again, maybe attention spans are getting shorter, but that's just feels right for us. And that's what we've done on that on the new album, Dark Rising.
yeah, it goes by quite quickly, but I do like I like the journey it takes you, and I also like the flow of it. Like what I also appreciate these days is selection and how it goes from front to end, which is a bit of an
Yeah.
old school thing now in the world of singles and very short EPs. But I like the flow of it. Like you said, very aggressive at the start to that end closing track, which I think is awesome as well. Like it bookends it very nicely. Like it's well thought
Yeah,
out.
yeah. That's what we wanted to do. And hopefully people, can listen to it in one go as well on that kind of little journey. Because again, things get broken up, don't they, by Bandcamp and Spotify. People dip into different tracks. And I used to like that. I used to like going on the entire journey of the album, from start to finish to get that kind of feel. And I hope that doesn't get eroded away, really. But yeah, the album it's on a Portuguese label at the moment. You can get it on CD on Gruesome Records. You can get it from our Bandcamp as well. And we have got vinyl coming soon as well because I know a lot of people out there um, hang on and wait for the vinyl because it's still nice to have a big record in your hand, isn't it? And feel that weight. So that's going to be out on Phobia Records in a few months' time. We'll keep you posted on that. And we've even got cassettes. We sell quite a few cassettes these days, which is always from someone who came up out of demo culture and cassette culture and tape trading. It's nice to see the odd cassette out there.
Yeah, they go quite quickly, don't they? I know a few bands where they do a limited run of cassettes, and it really, yeah, it's funny. It's still for such a, and I know that's what it was, and that's what we had with from tape trading and all those kind of things. But for something that's quite shit quality, like and we know the dramas that can happen because we were of an age where we've all had a tape stuck in there, and we've had a pen in the tape, and like. We, that's
Looping
very
it back
real, I can
round.
tell.
And
So
it used to get all scrunched up, but you'd still listen to it and get through
yeah,
that bit that was all a bit. And also tapes as well. It always used to cut out on one of your favorite songs when at the end of the tape. But yeah, so there's lots of different versions out there of Dark Rising. We've just released a kind of rehearsal type thing as well, which we kind of gave a bit of a kind of new production as well. That's just some of the rehearsals we did for the Beyond Life album. And merch is doing well as well. We're selling loads and loads of Deathfiend t-shirts, which is great. It's really, really good at the moment. So yeah, hit our Bandcamp for any Deathfiend stuff.
yes,
And we've also been playing quite a bit as well.
yeah. How's that been going?
Uh,
How's the new album been received in the mix of the stuff from the previous album? How's it all going?
we're doing bits of each live at the moment, and it's almost like a bit of a rebirth for me because I'm getting back out there to small venues again, getting in touch with new promoters, finding out what's happening. Because there's lots of younger promoters out there, lots of pubs that are putting on gigs. Then there's bigger shows to play. There's the odd festival. We played Bloodstock Festival not long ago, and that was amazing in a tent. And it's also hard as well. It's hard to get the gigs you want. You really want to go out with bigger bands, and you really want to tour extensively and get lots and lots of fans. But because we're a bit older and we've got families and things like that, we have to gauge it around weekends a lot of the time, jobs. So we end up playing gigs on Fridays and Saturdays quite a bit. But I will say it's been really good so far. The reaction's been great. People have started putting us on headline slots straight away because we obviously know what we're doing and the show's good. And the reaction's been fantastic. Lots and lots of people coming out, buying things as well, and just telling us, how much they're enjoying the music. So you can't get better than that. But yeah, I definitely want to do more touring. I'd like to go to Europe next. Australia is a bit too hard at the moment,
Yeah, yeah.
but yeah, Europe definitely. I want to get out to Ireland as well. More places up and down the UK for the moment, and just keep pushing it and keep trying to get it fan by fan. And there's nothing like someone telling you they really enjoyed your album as well. It means a lot to you.
And I was going to say, yeah, because you touched before on the merch, yeah, the do you have a hand in the artwork? Because the artwork is very striking, and I know I've seen the merch as well. The merch looks fantastic. Like it's very, again, what I touched on earlier. It's very well thought out, and it also fits in with the kind of grim tone of the band. Yeah, because like the new album, which I've obviously got in the my background there is,
Yeah, I can see it.
quite amazing. It's like really impressive.
Yeah, we actually got an artist to make that for us.
Oh
The
wow.
that new, I think they're called Necro Arts. Do a lot of kind of digital stuff, but also mixed with hand drawn things as well. And before that, we used a really old painting by a surrealist French artist as well. But yeah, it does matter. It does matter. And some of the classic albums, whether it's Napalm Death or Bolt Thrower or Doom, you've got it on. It's really important to have just a strong logo and just something that really is quite evocative on the cover. So yeah, we put a bit of time into the art and into the way the t-shirts look. And as we said, we're really influenced by things like Celtic Frost and that kind of striking kind of look to it, some dark artwork as well, some dark themes going on. But yeah, it's important. It's important for your stuff to look pretty good, I think.
Absolutely. And how is your, because when I think of you were touching on earlier about Earth Defiled on the new album, and I think it's really I think that's one of your best vocal performances. Like I think it really gets back to the early black metal as well. So yeah, I mean it's real, like as you touched on before, lyrically very, you know, a lot of insight on the track, but vocally it's, as well as the riffs on it as well. Like, yeah, huge track.
Yeah, I mean, I love that crossover of punk and black metal, and I'm bored of blast beats, if I'm honest. I've got nothing against blast beats, but when I was listening to black metal through the 90s, mixed with grindcore and stuff like that, I just got to a point where I was kind of like, okay, every band's doing blast beats now. It's lost its kind of excitement a little bit. So what I started doing was going back to some of the other beats that I really like, by the more primal death metal bands and hardcore bands, whether it's D beat, whether it's bands like Master,
Yeah,
old bands like that. So kind of fast and raw and still got some intense sections, but obituary as well, obituary, stuff like that. So it's still fast, but it's not trying to do the blast beat thing. So I think there's enough bands out there doing it at the moment. So Earth Defiled is a really good kind of mid-paced track. It's got a bit of D beat in there. It's got a bit of early black metal, and then lyrics, which come from the heart, which are just about what I see around me, and the fact that we don't seem like we're able to fix it, so it leaves you feeling quite powerless and a little bit angry occasionally, but you're also trying to have fun.
yeah,
So
yeah.
it's there's definitely a lot of kind of thought into the lyrics and things like that. I do think about the lyrics quite a lot before I put them down, and some of them are frustration, some of them are about light and dark within humanity. Some even touch on kind of occult subjects and stuff like that. 'Cause, I'm quite interested in the occult as well and how that seems to come about in our lives and in metal all the time and these Satanist Satanism and things like that. So, it's all quite interesting to me.
It's like that. I yeah, there's lots of topics and kind of flavors to it, and I like that. You know that Killing Joke documentary? Have you seen that?
Oh yeah, the
Uh,
Death and
I mean
Resurrection
that's
show.
I mean that's wild. Like the that it's definitely not your usual band kind of doco, but I like that tangential kind of takes on it. That was really because I had a lot of friends and I was like, no, 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 watch this, and they're like, oh, to be like a usual some film clips and a live performance in a very old performance, like the usual kind of stuff that comes out, but it was really quirky and
Yeah, it was like a spiritual journey, wasn't it? With jazz and just like, and you felt this kind of connection between the band that they were creating something that wasn't just music; it was like an alchemy kind of thing. Yeah, definitely. Killing Joke were also a massive influence on me. I went to see them in the 80s when I was growing up at school and stuck with them really, and then went back into their record collection. And I love that spirit. I love the fact that they straddle so many genres. Punks like them, metalers like them, psychedelic heads like them. The doors open for them to do anything they want. And
yeah.
I think I think even though Deathfiend's kind of rooted in that early crusty death metal and Hellhammer and things like that, you will get some things in the next few albums that will take it off into a few different directions, because I've got quite a few things planned.
Oh, that's good. Yeah, yeah. I mean, that's what makes it never dull. And I have to say, does the name come from Hellhammer? Because obviously that's
Yeah, I mean,
the song.
we're not arrogant in any way, shape, or form, and I would definitely say that I'm an average guitarist. I don't, I'm not a metal guitarist. I don't know scales, and I don't practice solos or anything. I just play from the heart, and some simple stuff that I feel, and I just, I think that's the spirit of Death Fiend, and when you listen to the Death Fiend demo by Hellhammer, they cannot play. They,
Yeah,
they just, it's the most ragged demo. It's out of
it
tune,
is.
but what came from that, by them just sticking with it and improving each time, got to Morbid Tales, Emperor's Return, to Megatherion, into the Pandemonium, and it was just, and that's the inspiration. It's you've got to start from somewhere and then kind of just let it grow. And that's what Death Fiend's going to do. It started from Beyond Life, which is just a bunch of guys getting in the room and creating something crusty and heavy. And then over the next few albums, hopefully it's going to kind of still retain that and but also add some new elements as well.
Yeah, no, that's great. And have you seen, just as a aside about Hellhammer, have you seen Triumph of Death?
Oh God, I Triumph for Death I haven't seen, but I went to Bloodstock Festival 2 years ago and watched Triptychon doing
Ah, yes.
Celtic Frost, and I met Tom G Warrior. I got him to sign my Death Fiend CD.
Yeah, excellent. I love it.
And it was one of my favorite sets. I mean, I still want to see Triumph of Death. I haven't seen the Hellhammer set yet, but to be honest, the Triptychon playing Celtic Frost was even better because it was all the
Yeah.
tracks from Morbid Tales, Emperor's Return, to Megatherion, and he played so well. Yeah, so it was a dream come true. That was absolute dream come true.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. I didn't see Triptychon because my friends seen it. There was a festival in Australia, and they got all their songs, and then the next night they seen that, and I did see Triumph for Death, and it really blew me away because it's obviously him and you know the session people, but he's used them for a while. But um, you know, grown
Yeah, they get
again.
it. They get it. They get the
Oh,
tempos. They get the sludgy guitar sound, The female bass player's amazing as
oh,
well.
yes, so
Yeah,
true.
yeah. So yeah, really, really enjoyed it. Really enjoyed it. And it is still an inspiration for the band, still an inspiration.
Yeah, that's fantastic. So what are the highlights so far of the of the two albums and the gigs you've played? What's the
I
highlight
just
so
like the
far?
way I I just like the way it's going.
Yeah, yeah.
It's a bunch of friends who all get on well. There's no drama in the band. We've all known each other quite a long time, so it's a relaxed atmosphere. We've got a nice room to practice in once or twice a week. We exchange ideas. Make little riffs at home and stuff like that. We've got some great people to work with in terms of getting gigs and shows, although I do want to do more. It's never enough. And yeah, I'm really pleased with the tracks. As I said, we're creating stuff ourselves. We're getting some nice fat sounds out there. The production's good, the artwork's good. So I'm just really pleased with where Deathfiend's going. We've just got a new guitarist as well. There's three of us. There's Rick, Andrea on drums, and myself, but we've just got a new guitarist as well called Craig, who's been playing the last three or four, five shows with us, and it sounds even fatter now. We've got
Ah,
two, yeah, we've got it even sludgier, even thicker sound to it. And the reaction, and it gives me a chance to kind of solo a little bit more and mess with the guitars and put more effects on here and there. So yeah, we're sounding really good at the moment, and we're just going to get better and better. So hopefully you'll be able to see us at some point.
yeah, no, that'd be great. Yeah, and I did because I did see in your social media. I was thinking it was like a three piece, and then I seen something somewhere, and it was like, hang on, it's like, yeah. So that's yeah, it just adds that little bit, particularly I suppose the elements you were talking about of the kind of not doom the band, the doom metal kind of sounds, and that's kind of broadening it a little bit. That's sort of yeah, it gives you that kind of space, doesn't it? To
Yeah, I
dig
mean,
out on it.
I loved being a three piece because it was like Celtic Frost and like
Yeah, yeah.
Hellhammer. But yeah, Craig's fitted in nicely and he's a really good rhythm guitarist. And as I said, it just makes it sound heavier and thicker. And the live gigs, as I said, people have really been headbanging along and been excited. And I like that because, you can go and watch a lot of bands and watch them and just be, kind of that was okay. Whereas we're really getting a good reaction and that keeps me going then. It keeps the energy flowing.
Yeah, yeah, it's definitely you look like you're enjoying it. The footage I have seen, yeah, it's you're definitely enjoying yourself. And it's kind of the audience is feeding off that, and then, why else would you fucking do it? That's the reason, isn't it? Like just
Well,
stand there
that's
like
it.
robots.
That's it. This could be one of the last bands I do. You never know how much more music you can do when you're like 55 years old. You just don't know. Um, so, so for this band, I wanted to shove into it all the things I really love, and it just so happens that the other members of the band do too. So yeah, I'm in my element. I'm in a happy place at the moment because I'm getting to do what I want to do. I even got bored with Doom a little bit when I was in Doom. Because even though I love it, I absolutely love it. I'm quite a creative person. I like keyboards and I like psychedelic guitars and I like chuggy riffs. So as much as I absolutely love Doom and it's where I started, this feels nice to me. It feels like I can do anything I want.
Well, isn't it? I mean, don't, yeah. I love I think one of the most amusing things is about Napalm Death, and I'm a huge fan. Um, Even in Australia, people are like, oh no, the first two albums or whatever, and they're just like, oh no, they were good, then they went shit, and I was like, have you heard their catalog? Like, it's just you know, like I think they've got better over time. All the elements and they've kept it so interesting. And they've had periods in the middle when they kind of had that groove metal where they got assassinated by the press, and then they've moved across. And now the last two or three albums, it's so fucking interesting. All the elements in it is like it, it's way more intriguing, and good to
Yeah,
listen
yeah,
to.
it was harder for bands like that, Napalm Death, Carcass, because they had bigger followings, so they had more pressure. And Shane's been touring for years, for most of his life. He's a really talented, creative guy. He's got so many influences. So Napalm Death have been through like all these different phases, and now they're free. They can do industrial bits. They can do kind of whatever they want. And that's part of being a musician. You've got to make music for your audience, but you also have to be excited about making the music yourself. And I think if you get bored being in a band, you've been in it a long time and you're bored with the music and you're going through the motions, then maybe that's okay, but it's not gonna push things forward. I think we need to be excited about what we're playing.
Yeah, it's got it, and some of it's got like a limit, like you said with Doom as well. You're ready to do other things, and you've done other things. It's like it has that point in time, and but if you didn't kind of change what you were doing from when you were, like you said, 14, 16, that'd be very strange. So
I also do a band called Rainbow Grave, which is with Nick Bullen, who started Napalm Death in
oh
his
yeah,
teens. He was the vocalist and bass player on Scum,
yeah, wow,
and left after that. But yeah, Nick Bullen was the originator of Napalm Death. Way before Shane and even Mickey Harris joined. He was doing it as a punk band in the 80s, and I do a band with him, Rainbow Grave, which is a noise rock band. And here in Birmingham, I would say, all these bands who've grown up together, whether it's Napalm Death, Bolt Thrower, etc., etc., we all see each other still occasionally, and we all get on, and we all talk about old times occasionally, and as I said, do musical collaborations and things like that. So it's been a nice time to grow up really through the 80s, 90s, 2000s, and I'm lucky to be involved with some of these musicians. Yeah,
yeah. That's no, that's amazing to still be good mates after all that time and
yeah, having
collaborate.
Carl,
It's
Carl
pretty
on the
rare.
yeah, Carl was on the first album. We got
Yes.
Barney on this album, and hopefully get a few more mates on there as well. I'd like to get Max Cavalera on the album as on the
Oh,
next album
wow.
as well. Because he's a big Doom fan, and whenever I speak to him, we always end up talking about underground music and how much we love it. So it's about sometimes getting your mates in and all helping each other out. So
Absolutely. Um, well, again, congratulations on the album. Yeah, but I think both albums are extraordinary, and I think it's fantastic. It's as opposed to some like say a shitty band like the Rolling Stones that are still at it. You're creating amazing music still. You know what I mean? It's really the catalog has been
thanks.
really good, and you're still so passionate about it is super inspiring.
Yeah, I mean that's how you've got to be. If you're going to do music, you've got to kind of, I suppose, get yourself into it, get yourself into the project, the concept, feel it a little bit. And as I said, we're going back to the core, going back to the source of early death metal, old school death metal, crust, grind, but also with our own flavor to it. So yeah, check out Deathfiend if you haven't. Out there. And yeah, just look at our pages and our Bandcamp and stuff like that. But yeah, it's a pleasure, mate.
Fantastic. All right. Well, thank you so much for your time, and this will go up with a very sparkling review of the album because I like because it's amazing as you've just said. So yeah, that's good. Thanks for your time. I'm just going to hit stop now.